I didn't take the job because I believed in ghosts. I took it because the bank had already called twice that week, and the third call wouldn't be a warning. It would be the end. Foreclosure, eviction, my mother sleeping in her car. That's how these stories always start, not with curiosity, but with desperation dressed up as a decision. The cemetery sat on the edge of town where the streetlights stopped working and people stopped asking questions. Black iron gates, tall enough to make you feel small even before you stepped inside. The kind of place you drive past a little faster at night without really knowing why. I'd passed it 100 times before. Never thought I'd be locking myself in after midnight. The listing was simple. Night groundskeeper, midnight to sunrise, cash paid weekly, no experience required. By the last part should have been my first warning. When I called the number, the man on the other end didn't ask for my name. He didn't ask about references or background checks. Just one question. Are you willing to follow instructions exactly? I said yes before he even finished the sentence. We met that same night. His name was Mr. Calder. Tall, thin, the kind of thin that didn't look natural, like something had been slowly taking pieces of him over time. He wore a long black coat despite the heat, sleeves pulled tight around his wrists. I noticed that right away. People who hide their hands are usually hiding something else too. You'll start tonight, he said, unlocking the gate with a key that looked older than the fence itself. Midnight to sunrise. You don't leave early. You don't wander. You don't improvise. I'm just watching the place, right? I asked. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. You're following the rules. That was the second warning. Inside, the air felt different. Not colder exactly, but heavier. Like walking into a room where someone had just been arguing. The gravel path crunched too loudly under my boots, echoing between rows of headstones that leaned at odd angles, as if the ground beneath them had shifted and never settled back. There are 6 rules, Calder said, handing me a folded piece of paper. Memorize them. Do not lose this. I unfolded it. The paper was thick, almost like parchment, and the ink looked faded, as if it had been written years ago. Rule 1. Do not acknowledge anyone calling your name after 1:15 a.m. Rule 2. If you see a grave that wasn't there before, do not approach it. Rule 3. Keep the lantern lit at all times. If it goes out, do not try to relight it. Rule 4. Avoid the east wing between 2 o'clock and 3 a.m. Rule 5. If you hear digging, walk in the opposite direction. Rule 6. If you see the caretaker, run. I read them twice, then a third time. This is a joke, right? I said, trying to laugh it off, but the sound came out thinner than I expected. Calder didn't laugh. The last man thought it was a joke, too. Something in his tone made me stop smiling. What happened to him? He turned away, already walking back toward the gate. He stopped following the rules, and just like that, he left. The gate slammed shut behind him with a finality that settled deep in my chest. I stood there for a moment, staring at the paper in my hand, listening to the silence press in from all sides. No cars, no wind, no distant city noise, just quiet. I checked my phone. 11:58 p.m., 2 minutes to midnight. I told myself it was easy money, 8 hours of walking around, maybe dealing with the occasional trespasser or drunk kid looking for a thrill. The rules were probably just there to scare off people who couldn't handle being alone in the dark. That's what I told myself. At 12 o'clock exactly, the lantern hanging beside the small tool shed flickered to life on its own. I froze. I hadn't touched it. There were no wires, no switch. Just a dull yellow glow that spread slowly across the ground like something waking up. Okay, I muttered under my breath. Probably motion sensor. Old place, weird wiring, but even as I said it, I knew that wasn't true. I picked up the lantern. It was warm. Not from electricity, but from something deeper, like it had been burning long before I got there. The moment my fingers closed around the handle, the silence changed. It wasn't quiet anymore. It was waiting. I started walking. Gravel crunched beneath my boots as I followed the main path between rows of graves. Names and dates blurred together in the low light. Some fresh, some so old the letters had nearly disappeared. I kept my eyes forward, focusing on the path, ignoring the feeling that the darkness between the headstones wasn't empty. At 12:17 a.m., I heard it. Daniel. I stopped. The voice was soft, familiar, too familiar. My grip tightened around the lantern. Daniel, over here. It came from behind me. Rule 1. Do not acknowledge anyone calling your name after 1:15 a.m. I checked my phone again. 12:17. Daniel, please. This time it sounded closer, urgent. I turned before I could stop myself. There was no one there, just rows of graves stretching into darkness. I let out a slow breath, forcing a laugh that didn't feel real. Yeah, just my head, I said quietly. Just nerves. I turned back toward the path and froze. There was a grave directly in front of me. There hadn't been one there before. I was sure of it. The dirt was fresh, piled unevenly, as if it had been dug just hours ago. No grass, no settling, just raw earth and a simple wooden marker. No name, no date, nothing. Rule 2. Do not approach it. My heart started beating faster. I hadn't heard digging. I hadn't seen anyone. And yet, it was there. The lantern flickered in my hand, for just a second. Then again. I looked down at it, pulse quickening. Rule 3. Keep the lantern lit at all times. If it goes out, a sound cut through the silence. Soft, rhythmic, coming from somewhere behind the new grave. Scrape, pause, scrape. I didn't need the rules to understand what that was. Someone was digging, and they were getting closer. I didn't think, not really. My body moved before my brain could catch up, turning sharply away from the sound, boots crunching fast against the gravel as I forced myself forward without looking back. Rule 5. If you hear digging, walk in the opposite direction. Walk, not run. That part echoed in my head as my pace quickened anyway, just shy of breaking into a sprint. Something about the way the sound followed, steady, patient, told me running might make it worse. Scrape, pause, scrape. Closer now, too close. I fixed my eyes on the path ahead, gripping the lantern so tightly my knuckles ached. The light steadied after its brief flicker, but it felt weaker somehow, like it was struggling against something pressing in from the dark. Just keep moving, I whispered to myself. Just follow the rules. The digging stopped, just like that. No transition, no fading. 1 second it was there, the next it was gone. The silence that replaced it was worse, because now I knew something had been making that sound, and now it wasn't. I kept walking. 10 steps, 20, 30. Then I heard footsteps, not behind me, beside me. Soft at first, almost perfectly matching my pace. If I hadn't been listening so hard, I might have missed it entirely. Crunch, step, crunch, step. I turned my head slightly, just enough for the lantern's glow to stretch toward the nearest row of graves. Nothing. Just tilted headstones and patches of uneven ground. The footsteps continued, exactly in sync with mine. I stopped. They stopped. My chest tightened. No, I muttered under my breath. No, no, no. Slowly, carefully, I started walking again. Crunch, step, crunch, step. Still there, still matching me. I swung the lantern wider this time, light spilling over the graves to my right, empty, but the sound didn't lie. Something was walking beside me, something I couldn't see. I picked up my pace again, faster now, the controlled walk turning into something closer to a hurried stride. The lantern swayed, casting wild shadows that seemed to stretch and twist between the headstones. The footsteps kept up effortlessly, no change in rhythm, no sign of strain, just there, patient, keeping pace. Don't run, I whispered again, more urgently this time. Don't run. Because if it wanted to catch me, it already would have. That thought didn't comfort me the way I hoped it would. Up ahead, the path split. Left led deeper into the cemetery, where the graves grew older and more crowded. Right curved toward the small maintenance shed near the entrance. Safety, or at least something that felt like it. I turned right without hesitation. The footsteps followed, but then they didn't. 3 steps into the new path. The sound stopped completely. I slowed, listened, nothing. No crunch of gravel, no movement, just that same heavy silence pressing in from all sides. I turned slightly, raising the lantern again. Still nothing. Whatever had been walking beside me hadn't followed. Relief hit me in a quick, sharp wave, but it didn't last. Because that meant something else. It hadn't been following me. It had been escorting me, guiding me, making sure I stayed on that path. The realization sat cold in my stomach. I turned back toward the shed, walking slower now, more careful. The lantern's glow steadied again, but the shadows around it seemed thicker, like they were resisting the light instead of retreating from it. The shed came into view a minute later. A Fyrsensemfinden, small, wooden, barely more than a box with a door and a single dusty window. I reached it and grabbed the handle. Locked, of course it was. I stepped back, exhaling slowly, trying to steady my breathing. "You're fine," I said. "Just a job. Just a night." My phone buzzed in my pocket. I flinched. For a second, I just stared at it, heart pounding. No one should have been calling me. I hadn't given this number to anyone except... No, I hadn't given it to anyone. Slowly, I pulled it out. No caller ID, just a number. Ringing. I hesitated, then answered. "Hello?" Silence, then breathing, soft, uneven. "Who is this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. More breathing, then a whisper. "Turn around." The line went dead. Every instinct in my body screamed not to move, not to look. Rule 1. Do not acknowledge anyone calling your name after 1:15 a.m. It wasn't my name, but it was close enough. Really, against every ounce of common sense I had left, I turned. At first, I didn't see anything, just the path, the graves, the darkness stretching between them. Then the lantern flickered again. Once, twice, and in that brief dip of light, something stood between the headstones. Tall, too tall, its shape wrong, like it didn't quite fit inside itself. I blinked. The light steadied. It was gone. My pulse hammered in my ears. "I didn't see that," I whispered. "I didn't see anything." The lantern flickered again, longer this time, and when the light came back, it was closer, standing just beyond the edge of the path, watching me. No face, no clear features, just a suggestion of a body stretched too thin, like it had been pulled upward beyond what it was meant to be. I stumbled back, hitting the shed wall hard. "Nope," I said under my breath. "Nope, not doing this." The lantern dimmed, not flickering now, fading. Rule 3. If it goes out, do not try to relight it. "Stay on," I whispered, shaking it slightly. "Come on, stay on." The figure tilted, not its head, its whole body, like it was trying to understand me. The light dropped lower. The shadows thickened, and then, from somewhere deep in the cemetery, a bell rang. One loud, echoing toll that cut through everything. The figure froze. The lantern flared back to full brightness instantly, and the thing between the graves was gone. The sound of the bell didn't fade the way it should have. It lingered, not in the air, but in my chest, vibrating through my ribs like something had struck me instead of metal. I stayed pressed against the shed, gripping the lantern, eyes locked on the spot where the figure had been. Nothing moved, nothing breathed, nothing watched. At least, nothing I could see. I swallowed hard and forced myself to stand upright. My legs felt unsteady, like they didn't fully belong to me anymore. "That's good," I said quietly, more to fill the silence than anything else. "Noise is good. Normal things make noise, but that hadn't sounded normal. It had sounded deliberate, like a signal." I checked my phone. 1:58 a.m., 2 minutes before Rule 4. Avoid the east wing between 2 o'clock and 3 a.m. I hadn't even asked where the east wing was. "Smart," I muttered. "Real smart." The cemetery stretched out in all directions, but now that I actually looked, I noticed something I hadn't before. Toward the far side, past the older graves and the crooked tree line, the ground dipped slightly, and a rusted iron archway stood half sunken into the earth. Beyond it, the darkness looked thicker, denser, like the lantern's light didn't reach as far in that direction. East. Of course it was. I took a step back from the shed, then another. Putting distance between myself and that side of the cemetery felt like the only good decision I'd made all night. The bell rang again, 2 times. The sound rolled across the graves, slower now, heavier. I flinched. "Okay," I said under my breath. 2 o'clock. That's probably what that is, except it didn't sound like a clock. It sounded like a warning. The lantern flickered once more, but steadied quickly. I adjusted my grip and turned back toward the main path, focusing on staying away from the east wing. That's when I noticed the graves had changed. Not all of them, but enough. Headstones that had been leaning were now upright. Others that I was sure I'd passed earlier were gone entirely, leaving behind patches of disturbed earth, and in their place, new ones. Fresh dirt, wooden markers, no names. My stomach dropped. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." Rule 2. Do not approach a grave that wasn't there before. There were at least 6 of them now, maybe more. And they weren't scattered randomly. They formed a loose line, cutting directly across the path I needed to take. I stopped a few feet away, heart pounding, scanning for another route. The graves stretched far enough in both directions that going around them would mean stepping off the path, into the rows, into the dark. The lantern flickered again, weaker this time. Of course, I muttered. Of course that's the choice. Stay on the path and face the graves, or leave the path and break the one rule he hadn't needed to say out loud. Don't wander. I stared at the nearest grave. The dirt looked wrong, not just fresh, moving, subtle, almost like something underneath was shifting, trying to settle into a shape that didn't quite fit. A soft sound came from below, not digging this time, scratching, slow, deliberate. My breath caught. Nope. I stepped back, then turned away from the path. Just a few steps, I told myself. Just around. Don't go far. The moment my foot left the gravel, the air changed, colder, sharper. The lantern dimmed slightly, as if protesting the decision. I'll come right back, I whispered, though I wasn't sure who I was trying to convince. I moved carefully between the headstones, keeping the path in sight to my left. The ground felt uneven under my boots, softer in places, like it had been disturbed recently. Don't think about that, just walk. Halfway around the line of graves, I heard it again. Daniel, closer this time, right behind me. I froze. Rule 1. My chest tightened as the voice continued. You're going the wrong way. It sounded calm, helpful, almost concerned. I said don't acknowledge it, I muttered under my breath, forcing my feet to move again. The voice followed, not louder, just closer. You don't understand the layout yet, it said. I can help you. I clenched my jaw. No, you can't, I whispered. You're not supposed to leave the path. That stopped me. Slowly, I turned my head just enough to glance over my shoulder. A man stood a few feet behind me. Normal. Completely normal. Middle-aged, average build, wearing a dark jacket and work boots. His face was clear in the lantern light, tired, but not threatening. Relief hit me so fast it almost made me dizzy. Oh, thank God, I breathed. I thought I was the only. Then I remembered. Rule 6. If you see the caretaker, run. The man smiled. You must be new, he said. My stomach dropped. You're the caretaker? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. He nodded slowly. That's right. Run. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to move, but my legs hesitated, because he didn't look dangerous. He looked tired, human. I was just trying to get around those graves, I said, gesturing weakly behind me. They just showed up, and I didn't want to. You left the path, he said gently. Not accusing, just stating it. Just for a second, I replied. I was coming right back. His smile widened slightly. You shouldn't do that. The lantern flickered hard. Once. Twice. 3 times. The light dipped low enough to stretch his shadow across the ground. It didn't match him. It was longer, thinner, and it moved a second too late. My heart slammed against my ribs. You're not the caretaker, I said, backing up. He tilted his head. I just told you I was. Rule 6. If you see the caretaker, run. I turned and ran. I didn't look back, not once. My boots slammed against the uneven ground as I pushed forward, no longer caring about the path, the rules, or anything except distance. Branches clawed at my arms, headstones blurred past in streaks of gray, and the lantern swung wildly in my grip, its light stuttering with every step. Behind me I heard nothing. No footsteps, no voice. That was worse, because something that doesn't need to chase you is something that already knows you can't escape. Keep going, I gasped, lungs burning. Keep. My foot caught on something buried just beneath the soil. I hit the ground hard. The lantern flew from my hand, rolling several feet away before settling on its side. The light dimmed instantly, shrinking into a weak, flickering glow. No, 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 no. I scrambled toward it, hands shaking, dirt grinding into my palms as I grabbed the handle and lifted it upright. The flame steadied, barely. Rule 3. If it goes out, do not try to relight it. I stared at it, chest heaving, waiting for it to die. It didn't, but it felt close. Too close. Slowly, I pushed myself to my feet and turned, and realized I had no idea where I was. The path was gone, the shed was gone, the gate gone. Graves surrounded me on all sides, packed tighter than before, their shapes crowding together like they were closing in. The air felt heavier here, harder to breathe, like the space itself was shrinking. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay, just think." East wing. I turned slowly, scanning the darkness. Beyond the fa, and saw it. The iron archway. Closer now, much closer than it should have been. Beyond it, the darkness wasn't just thick, it was moving, slow. Rolling shifts like something alive just beneath the surface of reality. I hadn't walked toward it. I knew I hadn't, but somehow, I was here. The bell rang again. 3 times. The sound didn't echo this time. It sank, straight into the ground, and the dirt beneath my feet moved. A low rumble passed through the cemetery as the graves around me began to shift. Headstones tilted, soil cracked. The earth itself seemed to breathe, rising and falling in slow, uneven waves. "No," I whispered. "No, this isn't happening." A hand burst through the dirt beside me, gray, rotting, grasping. I stumbled back, heart hammering, as another hand followed, then another. All around me, the ground split open as fingers clawed their way to the surface. Not fast, not aggressive, just inevitable. The lantern flickered violently. I turned and ran toward the archway. I didn't care about the rule anymore. Didn't care about anything except getting out of that place. The ground shifted beneath me with every step, but I kept moving, forcing my legs forward as the sounds of breaking earth and dragging limbs filled the air behind me. The archway loomed closer. The darkness beyond it pulsed, and standing in the center of it was the caretaker, waiting, perfectly still. "You weren't supposed to come here," he said. I skidded to a stop, breath ragged, lantern shaking in my hand. "You said run," I snapped. So I ran. His smile returned, wider now, less human. "And you ran exactly where we needed you." My stomach dropped. Behind me, the sound of crawling grew louder. Closer. I tightened my grip on the lantern. "Let me out," I said. "You are out," he replied softly. "This is where everyone ends up eventually." The lantern flickered again, once, twice, then steadied. And something clicked in my head, not a realization, a memory. Rule 3, keep the lantern lit. I looked down at it, then back at him. "You don't want this to go out," I said slowly. For the first time, his expression changed, just slightly. "Enough." I raised the lantern higher. The light stretched further than before, pushing into the darkness around the archway. The shifting shadows recoiled, pulling back like they'd been burned. The caretaker took a step back. "You don't understand what you're holding," he said, voice tighter now. "Doesn't matter," I replied. "You don't like it." Behind me, the crawling stopped, completely. Silence fell again, heavy, waiting. I took a step forward. So did he. Instinct, reaction, fear, good. "Stay back," I said. He didn't. So I did the only thing I could think of. I stepped through the archway. The world snapped, not shifted, not changed, snapped. Like something had been stretched too far and finally broke. The darkness vanished, the ground stilled, the air lightened. I stumbled forward onto gravel, catching myself before I fell again. The main path, the shed, the gate, all exactly where they should have been. I spun around. The archway was gone. No east wing, no movement, no hands clawing through the dirt, just a quiet, empty cemetery under a fading night sky. My phone buzzed. I looked down. 5:58 a.m., 2 minutes before sunrise. The lantern in my hand flickered one last time and went out. I froze. Rule 3, do not try to relight it. Slowly, carefully I lowered it. Nothing happened. No movement, no sound, no voice, just silence. Real silence this time. The kind that feels normal. The gate creaked open behind me. I turned. Mr. Calder stood there, exactly where he had been hours earlier, like he had never left. "You made it," he said. I stared at him, exhaustion crashing over me all at once. "What the hell is this place?" I demanded. He glanced past me, toward the graves. "Maintenance," he replied simply. "That's not an answer. It's the only one you'll get." The sun began to rise behind him, pale light spilling across the cemetery. For a moment, everything looked ordinary, harmless, like it had all been in my head. Then he handed me an envelope, thick, cash. "Same time tomorrow," he said. I looked down at the money, then back at him. I should have said no. I should have walked away, but all I could think about was the bank, my mother, the calls that wouldn't stop. I swallowed hard. What happens if I don't come back? Calder studied me for a long moment. Then he said, quietly, "They'll still know your name." The gate creaked wider, waiting. I stepped through, and behind me, it closed.